Have you ever felt invisible? Like no matter how hard you work, you just get overlooked. If you've ever felt that way, then this story is for you. In a quiet, sun-drenched village, nestled among rolling green meadows, lived a little donkey named Dinky. Dinky was the unsung hero of a small, happy farm. He was strong, reliable, and incredibly hardworking. From sunrise to sunset, you could find him pulling carts heavy with hay, grain, or firewood for his farmer. He never once complained. But at the end of a long day, when treats were handed out, Dinky was always forgotten. The farmer, kind as he was, had a routine. First, he'd toss a biscuit to Tommy, the bouncy little puppy. "Here you go, Tommy. Good boy," he'd say, and Tommy would yip with delight. Next, a bowl of warm milk for Moo, the sleek cat who was always purring contentedly on a sun-warmed wall. Then, a handful of roasted corn for Peter, the proud, majestic horse. "For my champion," the farmer would declare, and for Dinky? "All right, Dinky, let's get this cart moved." That was all he ever got. Just more work. Day after day, Dinky would watch the others, his heart sinking a little lower each time. He saw Tommy getting belly rubs, Moo being cuddled, and Peter getting his mane brushed. He yearned for just a fraction of that affection, a single kind word, a gentle pat on the head. He could hear the other animals sometimes. Not always mean, but their words still stung. Poor Dinky, the chickens would cluck. Always working, never playing. Maybe if he were more like Peter, strong and grand, the farmer would notice him. The sheep would baa to each other. Dinky would just droop his long ears and pull his cart a little harder, trying to pull the weight of his sadness along with the firewood. He started to wonder what was wrong with him. Why wasn't just being himself enough? This feeling grew inside him, a heavy stone in his chest, until one morning, before the rooster had even crowed, Dinky made a decision. He couldn't bear another day of feeling like a ghost. He needed to find a place where he could be seen, where he could feel valued. So, with a heavy heart but a glimmer of hope, he quietly slipped away from the farm. He trotted towards the deep, mysterious forest that bordered the fields, a place full of shadows and secrets, hoping to find not just a new home, but a new version of himself. As Dinky ventured deeper into the woods, the familiar sounds of the farm faded away, replaced by the whispers of the wind through the tall trees. Sunlight dappled the forest floor, creating dancing patterns of light and shadow. It was in one of these patches of light that he saw something strange. Lying on a bed of moss was an old, discarded lion's pelt. It was magnificent, its golden fur still holding a hint of its former glory. Dinky approached it cautiously. "Wow," he whispered to himself. A lion's skin. An idea sparked in his mind, a wild, daring thought. What if he could be the lion? What if, instead of being a simple, overlooked donkey, he could be the king of the jungle? With trembling hooves, he carefully draped the lion's pelt over his back. He adjusted it until it covered him completely, from his long ears to his tail. He shuffled over to a clear puddle and peered at his reflection. He gasped. Staring back at him was not Dinky the donkey, but a powerful, majestic lion. The pelt was a perfect disguise. He stood up a little taller, puffed out his chest, and tried to look regal. For the first time in his life, he didn't feel small or invisible. He felt mighty. He felt important. He felt like a king. He decided to stay in the forest and see what it was like to be someone else for a while. It didn't take long for news to ripple through the jungle. "A lion has come," a speedy rabbit announced to a gathering of squirrels. "I saw him with my own eyes. So powerful." The word spread like wildfire. Soon, animals from all corners of the forest came to see this new, magnificent creature. When they saw Dinky standing silently on a rocky outcrop, they were in awe. "He is so majestic," a deer whispered, "and so calm. He doesn't even need to roar to show his power," an old owl hooted wisely. The animals, who had only ever heard stories of lions, were convinced. They bowed their heads in respect. Dinky, trying his best to act the part, simply stood still, watching them with what he hoped was a kingly gaze. He was terrified, but he was also thrilled. They saw him. They respected him. The jungle animals were so excited to have a king among them that they decided to throw a grand celebration, a royal concert in his honor. They decorated a clearing with flowers and vines, and every creature prepared to show off their talent for their new leader. That evening, Dinky sat on a large moss-covered boulder, his makeshift throne, as the concert began. Monkeys played drums on hollow logs, birds sang beautiful melodies, and bears danced a clumsy but joyful jig. Dinky watched it all, his heart swelling with a strange mix of pride and fear. He was the center of attention, the guest of honor. It was everything he had ever wanted. Then, a small, brave monkey approached the throne. "Your Majesty," he chattered, bowing low, "we are so honored by your presence. Would you grace us with a royal song?" A mighty roar to inspire us all. The forest fell silent. Every eye was on Dinky. His blood ran cold. A song? A roar? He was a donkey. He didn't know how to roar. All he could do was bray. Hee-haw! The sound of his own voice echoed in his head. He panicked. What could he do? He couldn't refuse. A king wouldn't refuse. Taking a deep breath, he stood up, puffed out his chest as he'd seen Peter the horse do, opened his mouth, and gave it his all. He dash, he. Haw. A stunned silence fell over the clearing. The birds stopped singing. The monkeys stopped drumming. The animals just stared, their mouths agape. And then, a little fox cub started to giggle. "That's not a roar," he squeaked. As Dinky shifted nervously, the heavy lion's pelt slipped from his shoulders and fell to the ground, revealing his gray coat and long donkey ears. The giggles turned into gasps of surprise. It's a donkey!" Someone shouted. Dinky stood there, exposed and trembling with shame. The mask was off, and he felt more invisible than ever before. I'm sorry," he mumbled, his ears drooping low, wishing the ground would swallow him whole. The jungle animals, once in awe, were now just confused. The wise old owl flew down and landed on a branch nearby. "Why?" he asked gently, his voice not angry, but curious. "Why would you pretend to be a lion?" Dinky looked at all the faces staring at him, and the truth just tumbled out. His voice was shaky as he explained everything. "Because back on the farm, nobody ever saw me," he said, tears welling in his eyes. "The puppy gets treats, the cat gets cuddles, the horse gets praise. But I just get more work. I thought if I could be someone else, someone strong and important like a lion, then maybe for just a little while, someone would finally notice me." As Dinky finished his story, the forest was quiet. But it wasn't the silence of judgment. It was a silence of understanding. Then, the animals began to speak, one by one. "We didn't know," said a mother bear, her voice soft. "You don't need a lion's skin to be important." The speedy cheetah, who had been watching from the back, stepped forward. "Important? You carried that heavy skin all this way. You're stronger than you think." The wise owl nodded. "You are Dinky, a kind, hard-working, and honest donkey. That is who you are, and that is more than enough. Your value doesn't come from a costume. It comes from your heart." For the first time, Dinky wasn't being judged for what he wasn't. He was being celebrated for who he was. A warm feeling spread through Dinky's chest, chasing away the shame and sadness. He looked at the jungle animals, his new friends, and a small smile touched his lips. He didn't need to be a lion. He was Dinky, and for the first time, that felt like the best thing he could possibly be. The animals cheered for him, a real cheer, not for a fake king, but for a brave donkey. "Come back and visit us, Dinky," they called out as he turned to leave. With his head held high and a new lightness in his step, Dinky began the journey back to the farm. He wasn't running away anymore. He was going home.